All right, welcome to this week's episode of the Vets in Real Estate Podcast. I am here with Jesse Sells. Going to talk about his transition out of the Air Force and into what he's doing in real estate now, so stay tuned. All right, Jesse, well, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being willing to give your time and join our listeners as we kind of explore your career path and kind of what you've done. So tell us about what you did in the Air Force. It sounds like that was a little bit of an interesting career field with what you did in service.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent 11 years Air Force. Last few years were reserves, but I was that guy that was always on orders, just always doing something. Intelligence guy. I was that dude just doing the briefings, every day. Had some amazing opportunities to meet generals, which is one of the things that helped me later on in my career. We can get talking about that later, but people are just people. Even these 3-star generals, as a E3 talking to these guys, I just realized that people are just people. After that, picked up by special ops. I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to learn Arabic. Had a very severe Iraqi teacher yelling at me every day for a year or so. Then went to the Middle East and Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and helped set up intelligence centers there. So very interesting career. I thought there's no way I was going to use this the rest of my life, but man, I was wrong. So
you actually use what you did in the service quite a bit now.
Yeah, I think when you're surrounded, you're sitting on that dirt floor, drinking tea, and you have to have 2 glasses of tea before you can even talk about the plan for today, and inshallah, if it happens, it happens, right? Mm-hmm. And we're used to, we have orders, we have things to do, but I learned patience and learn how to work with people, which is extremely important when you're trying to work with brokers, title companies, residents. Not a lot of people think the same way you do. So it's, and there's a lot of information out there. Same thing with intelligence, right? There's a lot of info out there. You turn on the TV right now, one channel says the president's the worst person in the world. The next one says the best. And, who knows, right? There's a lot of info out there, but you got to dial down to what really matters. What matters for investors, what matters for asset management, managing the property, and what matters for your residents,
Yeah. So talk to me about that transition. When you kind of got done with your time in service, was real estate always the end all game? Was that something you'd already been kind of playing with here and there, prior to getting out, or was it just dumb luck that you found real estate?
Yes, all the above. I think it has to be, right? There's always luck involved. So growing up, grew up kind of lower class. My dad had a saying, right? It was, we're not white trash, we're just poor, right? So what that meant was, hey, we're not accepting our situation. We're not going to lean into it. We're going to keep pushing forward. So my entire life, I remodeled homes. I remember being on a tin roof when I was 12 years old. The storm was blowing in and the roof's, rattling up there and holding on for dear life. But we got to finish this roof. So I always knew the power of real estate because we would do this and kind of flip homes growing up. You see it over and over and over again. And then when I joined, of course, you buy a home, you sell it. I usually kind of bought crappier homes and then just did a miniature flip essentially over a year or two, So I knew the power. I didn't know how to take it to that next step. So I looked at subject 2. I looked at all these different creative financing ways to do it. And then I stumbled on syndications. So convinced 20 people I knew, pseudo or through a person to give me some money, and bought my first mobile home park, first 2 really, and that which gave me $6,000 a month in cash flow, almost immediately. And that was 7 years ago. Went full time almost immediately, pretty much. And in the last 7 years, done about 20 something of those, a couple of joint venture projects. Have an institutional partner I'm working with right now. And in the future, we're moving over to these public and private partnerships, P3s, with local governments. Yeah.
Those get a whole lot more fun. I've been on the government side of those, working through those, and it's fascinating and complicated and frustrating, but it all comes out to work generally, if it's done right, works to everybody's interest. So good luck with that. I'm glad those are part of my past and not my future some days, but good luck with those. So what got you into, I mean, obviously, kind of, flipping or doing those long flips, kind of living there and rehabbing and kind of bringing everything up was a start. But what was it that, with your background and intelligence, everything, like you could get picked up by anybody and go have a regular 9 to 5. What was it about, I guess, real estate that kind of drew you there or helped you make that transition or helped make that decision?
Yeah, so I was looking at working in a building like a think tank or somewhere in DC, probably, where no windows, right? Just 9 to 5 or whatever it would be. And it wasn't exciting to me. I enjoyed it, but it's not something I wanted for the rest of my life. So big influencers for me in the beginning was the Burr method, which is, buy, rehab, refinance, or rent, refinance, repeat. And then it kind of moved into YouTube University, finding out about syndications and seeing like, oh man, I could do this pretty quickly and scale and do larger projects. Because if you're looking at renting out a single family home, like I think the average is like 150 to 200 bucks you make per home when you rent it out, plus all the, expenses and everything else. And I did the math and I was like, oh, I need to have like 60 to 80 of these, depending on how much profit I make, to make 10,000 a month of passive income. And that's insane. That's just not. Yeah.
So you went this path and started syndicating funds. I mean, that's got to be a little awkward to sit down and say, "Hey, buddy, you got $1?" How did that process go for you early on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially growing up, like proud. We're never going to ask for money. We're never going to, we're going to pull ourselves up from the bootstraps. It was quite a mind shift change for me to. I'm not asking for money. I'm giving people an opportunity. Like 90% of millionaires made their wealth through real estate, right? This is a vehicle for people to invest passively. They truly is passive income. They can sit on the couch, make money. They can save money on their taxes, right? Through depreciation, which is probably coming back 100% anyways. And then we're impact focused. So I focus on our residents, I focus on veterans, I focus on people coming out of the prison system and providing them support so they can actually thrive. Because 66% of the population is paycheck to paycheck. So when you're looking at affordable housing, I mean, little a, so just like market rate, what people can afford, housing, with 66% of the population being paycheck to paycheck, if you get in a car wreck, your car breaks down, your daughter wants to join cheerleading, you're either paying for groceries or you're paying for rent, right?
Sure. I'm laughing too hard as my daughter does cheerleading. I don't understand the feeling there.
Yeah, expensive. I heard it's crazy.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so we try to partner. We focus on the impact side by just partnering with local charities, local groups, because there's all these resources out there. By partnering with them and sometimes paying them, we find that our residents want to be there. We get better residents and they don't leave as often. So we actually can operate more efficiently.
And I think that's one of the things. I think that's one of the things that you kind of hit on is that I work with investors on a very regular basis, right? Quality to tenants is always the goal. Is you want people there. They're not going to property. They're going to take care of those things. I mean, talk more about how you've kind of found tenants that want to be there that really need to be. It sounds like you guys have taken a little bit of an interesting approach to that.
Yeah. I tell our, so usually when we buy an apartment complex, it's rundown. Yeah. I remember we bought one in Fort Worth, 180 units. It was a second chance community. So people out of prison go there. Literally a murder while we're closing. Awesome. Yeah. Fantastic. So renegotiate a little bit, got the price dropped. First day, I'm walking on property. Hey, I'm Jesse, the new owner. SWAT flies by. Sweet. So I'm literally outside the guy's window, yelling at him to come out. They have their battering rams up, about to knock down the door. I'm like, just come out. I don't want to pay for the door. They're already here. They're going to get you anyways. So that's what we take on, right? So we take these on, and I always tell our managers, give me 6 months. Everybody's going to hate you for 6 months, but then it's going to be like a snap of the fingers, and everybody's going to love you. Because what you're going to do is you're going to start holding people accountable about making sure every car is registered, about picking up after your dog, or making sure that your noise complaints are filed and people are getting evicted. And everybody's angry because it's lawlessness. But then after a while, one of our metrics is we see people come out. We see kids start playing in the playground. We see community events actually happening. This property wouldn't do any community events because there'd be fights every single time. 6 months later, we're doing giant pool parties and we're having taco trucks, and it makes a huge difference. So it's really meeting people where they're at and seeing what they need in each region, finding the resources to give them it. Because you can live in a place that will report your credit, so increase your credit. We'll give you financial advice, give you training for free. We'll do ESL lessons. That same property, Dallas, for some reason has really high drowning rates. I don't know of a lot of lakes in DFW, but those pools and ponds, I guess. So we have like free swim lessons, like whatever they need. And then people realize, oh, this is a well taken care of property. They tell their friends, they stay longer. It's a self-licking ice cream cone.
So I like the way you put that. How are you putting on all those events, all that training, all that? I mean, that starts to sound more of a nonprofit mindset of help the community, build the community up better. But obviously, you've got to turn around and have investors that are helping to fund the deals. I mean, that's an interesting balance.
Right, and that's the fun part. So first off, a lot of legwork to get all these groups together. I have a 30-page document that we got about every single charity, what they do, who they supply, and we give it out to every resident because not a lot of people want to ask for help, first off. It's embarrassing to call the front office and be like, I can't feed my children, right? Or I have mental health issues. So legwork. But the key thing I want to key in on is it's not a charity. We cannot do this through a charity because when we're out of money, and that's it. So it sounds kind of paradoxical, but this has to be a for-profit enterprise, and it is. That's why we've been able to do this 20-something times. And so we do that by making it for-profit, by making great returns for our investors, but then still telling them stories of like people we've helped and the lives that's been affected. People can look in the mirror and be happy with how they made their money, right? And they'll want to do it again and again and again. I think most people want to do right by the world. As veterans, I do a lot with homeless veterans, a lot of mental health with veterans, because it's just near and dear to my heart too. And we see that's true with our investors.
And that's interesting that, in the big institutional world, we look at things like ESG, we talk about what those scores look like, all that kind of stuff. And it's funny because so many corporations are, let's go ahead and, have a month dedicated to this community, or let's do that. And that's all the things they're doing to try to, help the community. But yet you're probably, arguably having a bigger impact, a better impact, a more profound impact, and attracting investors who want to continue to reinvest with you that some of the largest companies and investment firms in the world can't get figured out. I mean, is it really that simple, or are they overthinking it? I mean, what's going on here?
Yeah, first off, ESG is a swear word. That is the worst thing. It's one of those like great idea fairies and then actually doesn't do anything, right? Because the single mom with her kids living there doesn't care if there's solar panels on the roof of the apartment complex. Cool, right? That doesn't do anything for her. So yeah, I'd argue that we are doing more. And it is all the legwork. It's everything else we do, hiring the right people, making sure everybody agrees to the vision, everybody follows the vision, what we're doing. Again, not a nonprofit. This is a for-profit enterprise, and we do this and track that. Hey, we are having effects. More people want to stay with us. We're able to sometimes charge more in rent because it's a clean, safe place to live when all the other options are not. yeah, it's extremely important to us. It's extremely important to our investors to do it and to do it the right way. That's one thing we've started doing differently the last 3 years is actually tracking this. As far as like how many pounds from the food bank gets released to our residents. I don't know how much Sally got, but I know our residents did this, or how many people were showing up to the CPR class, or, all those things we track and we report those to our investors. That's an indicator. It's a KPI for us. Not just, hey, where's your AAR and your IRR or, everything else. It's, here's your equity was made here. Here's your split return, waterfall return, and then also here's how many lives and how they were affected this past quarter. I think it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that's a very different way to measure, and most of my side has been in the institutional world, where if IRR doesn't check, then why are we doing the project, right? Unless it's strategic for something, but it ultimately plays into what does that IRR, what does that dividend rate ultimately do? I don't know. It's interesting because most people that are getting into investment are all, how do I get that passive income? How can I do that? But yet you've kind of unlocked this idea of how do I do good and make some money?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, real quick, I was the same way. I got in because I just wanted to have money. Like, sorry, I hated the guy.
Yeah.
When I grew up and I saw somebody with a brand new F-150 being from Texas, I was like, man, that guy's got money, right? I hated that guy. So I just wanted financial freedom. And then, one day we had one of our residents. She had a great job. She's one of those people that smiles in your face and you like her, but then she's also like stealing your coffee. That's what she would do to us. Come to her office and just like steal the coffee and then walk out with a smile on her face. And you're like, oh, Cindy, she's crazy. One day she just stopped paying rent. And I was like, oh, man, we got a big Cindy. And we found out that Cindy lost her job. Okay. This is awful. Well, she lost her job because she was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. She had 3 months to live. So now we're looking at evicting Cindy, making her homeless, or letting her live for free, essentially. This amazing woman. And I was like, oh man, I have no way to get her paid. She has no money for food anymore because that medicine is poison, right? That's why she lost her job. She just couldn't go. So I picked up the phone, one charity, just called everybody I could. Finally found a very specific lung cancer charity that paid her rent. Yay, landlord. But also, more importantly, like got her food, got her in contact with her family, got her a lawyer to take care of her, like her last, will and testament. And so the last few months of her life, she could live comfortably, not have to worry. And that's when I really realized, like, holy cow, like this is the power of impact investing. This is what we can actually do. It's more than just making me money so I can go buy a brand new F-150 or whatever, a Tundra, actually. Got one of those herd pros over here. But it's more than that. I think we have a purpose and a right to do that.
And I one of the reasons I love real estate, I teach at universities and bring this to my students on a very regular basis, is that one of the amazing things that we have in real estate, or the abilities we have in real estate, is to really just shape our communities, really to have change, have impacts. If we invest right, if we, on the brokerage side, bring the right investors in or bring the right business in, you really have the ability to change your market, change your community, and have lasting change. And more often than not, oh, that evil real estate developer, they're over here and gentrifying our area. And I mean, we get it because we see them too. They're out there, they're there. But what's fascinating is that we can do it where I know when I was working in economic development, I remember running the McDonald's, got to know one of the cooks in the back over some years, told him about some programs that we were doing. All of a sudden, a handful of weeks later, he was making whatever, $10, $11 an hour there. I saw him one evening going to the training program there in the evening. That was a 6-week, 8-week program, something like that. And I already knew that when he got done with that program, he was making $38, $40 an hour. And I was like, this guy just made 3 to 4 times his annual income. He was married, or at least had a girlfriend and a kid. I mean, if you tripled or quadrupled my income, that's life-changing. And here we have that ability to do that in real estate, and here in your investments, you're, maybe not doing that same, economic development work, but in a lot of ways you really are building community, giving them a safe place, giving them training and all that kind of stuff that's there. And we're one of the few industries that truly sit down and touch all of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, very few do touch all of them. And it's such an amazing opportunity. And I'm glad that you figured it out, because I don't think many in the industry get that figured out.
Yeah. And what's amazing about that story you told, Will, is you just told them about an opportunity. Like, this doesn't cost us extra money. It's just finding, maybe time, I guess, but just finding the opportunities and then presenting, because people just don't know what's out there, and they're working, it's hard to find them when you're working 24/7 and, just don't know what to look, or don't want to ask help. But now you triple this guy's income. That's life-changing.
Absolutely. So most of our guests, most of our audience are going to be more those that are looking at going into brokerage or maybe property management or something along those lines. It's generally who we've kind of found that are coming in, not many investors. So as an investor, how have you worked with, both positive and negatively, with the brokers, with the property managers, with those folks? Because, I mean, let's face it, sometimes our two worlds don't get along nearly as well as what they probably could. So what have been things that have worked well for you when working with the licensees, and what have worked poorly for you guys?
Yeah, I'll focus mostly on the property managers. That's where I usually focus. Had some great brokers, had some annoying brokers that, I'd say I don't want this type, and they keep presenting that type of product, and, so I've had a good property manager, a good person on site makes all the difference. I only focus on over 100 units now. Economies of scale, it's easier, you get better managers. Work with property management companies, about 7 different ones I work with right now. And it's night and day from just a poorly managed property management company and or property manager to a good one. They're the ones doing God's work. They're the ones implementing this. They're the ones that I'm constantly finding out about, that they pulled money out of their own pocket to cover some school supplies. They're absolutely amazing human beings. I don't get enough credit. Also, very unique person. Like, to be a property manager, you got to be tough, but still have a heart on you. But you got to toe that line somehow of, holding people accountable, but also like being understanding and being communicative where people want to talk to you and be that person. So yeah, all the respect in the world to those people. So have you noticed certain trends? Are you hiring veterans as your property managers, or are you noticing any trends with those property managers that work really well for you? Yeah, I work with our company is made up of we have 13 people right now. I think 4 or 5 of them are veterans. I usually pull veterans over depending on their experience, like logistics. Somebody with a lot of logistics experience, somebody with a lot of just admin experience. A lot of those people work really well for asset management, and that's just kind of making sure we meet the requirements of the property and don't get so zoomed in on what Sally or whatever else is doing at the property, whatever this resident is doing. But yeah, absolutely. We try to hire as many veterans as possible. I think veterans have a unique perspective on how things work, have a certain attitude, which I like.
Sure.
Yeah, hardworking people.
As you're interviewing veterans, it will have many that go into more corporate facing roles or something like that. As you interview them, have you noticed anything that you wish that the transition assistant program or something like that would train them differently, or things that they're missing out on that's there? I know for us, we usually see the way they communicate, but is there anything that you're seeing that if you could go back and smack them around a little bit and, hey, let's redo this interview and keep this in mind? Have you noticed any of those things?
Yeah, big giant brush here, right? Stereotypes.
Sure.
I would say depending on branch, especially depending on your role, your MOS or whatever, a lot of people are afraid to question and challenge, right? Especially starting out as an entrepreneur. Guess what? I don't know anything about marketing. I don't know anything about this whole side, right? I just know I need to do it. So if you see something, I need you to tell me, hey, Jesse, this is dumb, right? And you can say that to me. I'm okay with that. And just say, I think this is a good idea, or this is a bad idea because of this, right? Being enlisted, I think you're enlisted too, right, Will?
Right, yep.
Oh, yeah. We've done a lot of dumb stuff that are like, somebody had to get a star, so now I have to go run around and do this stupid thing that makes zero sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you see that, in an interview or anything else, just shake me and be like, Jesse, this is stupid. It doesn't make any sense. That's what I want.
So kind of that subservient mindset, I guess, or that respect for chain of command looks differently in the civilian world than it does inside of the military complex.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't call it subservient, but yeah, I get what you're trying to say. Yeah, it's okay to challenge, and you should always challenge. I think anywhere. I think respectfully, of course, you got to know who your superior is, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't let me drive into a wall.
No, and that's great advice. And you kind of mentioned it before, kind of when we started talking, is that people are people. That you said you're at E3 talking to 2-star, 3-stars. They're people. How did you handle, I guess, as a lower enlisted talking to general officers? How did you handle that? How have you noticed that transitioning into the civilian life?
Yeah, as an E3, I did a lot of sweating and yes, sirs, mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what's interesting about that, I saw the glimpse of how these people are as generals. I was too young, too nervous probably to kind of really absorb it. But now when I get on calls with Julio Gonzalez, is a billionaire. He's working with tax policy right now for Trump. He's on our advisory panel. Met him a few times now. Great guy. He's just a guy. It's interesting because the more money behind these people's names, the bigger they are. These millionaires, hundreds of millionaires I met a few times now, they just want to know who you are. So when I get up in there and I'm nervous and like, this is a return and, this is what the business plan, they don't care. They got somebody else to look at that, right? They want to know who I am, who you, the listener, is when you're talking to these people, because they want to know if they can trust you and how you make decisions. So when you realize that everybody's just people and they all want to know how you think and who you are, it makes it a lot easier to walk into those rooms.
Yeah, and I think we throw roadblocks up. I think especially as enlisted folks that I recall when I was working in economic development, we did a lot with the military base here locally and sitting in meetings with, more stars than I should ever have seen in my life, right? As 4 or 5 general officers in that room. And they're like, I'm Bill, I'm Mark, I'm Joe. And I'm like, yeah. Still, locked up at attention, thinking like Sergeant Curtis isn't doing this, and realize that I'm not Sergeant Curtis, I'm Will. And they really are Joe, Mark, and whoever, right? Mm-hmm. They're people. And it's I don't know, it's fascinating to come to that mindset. Did you kind of realize that very quickly, or did that kind of take you some time to kind of struggle through realizing that regardless of status, regardless of income or what have you, that people are just people?
Yeah, it did take me probably a week. I did worked at headquarters for the reserves for 6 weeks. And I was doing those briefings and those rooms every single day. And probably about a week or two in, that's when I realized this guy is just a Joe or he's just a Mark, Yeah, experienced, knows what he's talking about, but then also completely blind spots other places, or they're just normal people who, just want to be treated that way and have a real thoughtful conversation about what they're doing. Especially at that level, they want to understand every single piece and move forward. Same thing translates to the civilian world, right? The nicer the table, the bigger the people I meet. I just want to have a conversation, understand who we are.
Yeah, and I think at that level, they can go out and hire anybody that's got the degrees, the analyst, or the background, and all that kind of stuff. They can hire any of those people. That's not their struggle. I think sometimes their struggle is making sure they put the right people in the room, and at that level, that's really what they're trying to do, is find the right people in the room, not based off just pedigree, but personalities, making sure it's a good team that's going to mesh, make sure they're going to fight with each other, but fight in a good way.
100%. Yeah. Fight in a good way. You should always be arguing, especially with business partners. If you're not fighting, you're not passionate enough about what you're doing in a good way. Make a decision to move. But
right. Absolutely. No, and absolutely. I mean, I've seen too many partnerships that have kind of fought one another where they end up, hating each other. And that's not what you're looking at. But I can remember one of the first investment groups I had worked with, father, son, and an outside partner. And dad is over here like, you are the dumbest son of a, why in the world would you do this? This is a bunch of idiot. I mean, just going on and on and on. And he's like, Dad, it's time for lunch. He's like, okay, where do you want to go? How about Olive Garden? No, I don't want Olive Garden. How about we go to here? Oh, okay, that's fine. And as they're walking out, I was like, Will, you want to go to lunch? I'm like, I don't want to be part of this conversation. But they were fine. They were arguing over the operations of everything. It was loud and boisterous, but they're like, let's go get lunch. It's time to go. Invite Will. I'm like, not here, but yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, and I guess if you've built this team of 13 or so people, do you have, maybe not as boisterous as them, but have you found that you're building that right team that kind of argues in a good way?
Absolutely. I think, yeah, it's the old Ray Dalio principles, right? Everybody has a voice in a room. Now you should say this person's the expert on this, that's weighted a little more, but I think everybody should have a voice, and because everybody sees things differently. We have a partner that is those Harvard grads, and they're wrong like that's 80% of the time because they just don't know what it's like. They just have no idea. It's all ivory tower. It should be this way. Well, it's not. Okay, so let's use the information we have and move forward. So yeah, that's exactly how I lead our team. That's exactly what I want from employees, to have a voice and say what you mean and be accountable to it as well.
Yeah. So as we kind of start working at wrapping things up, you've been at this for a little bit of time. If you were to sit back and look at the Jesse who is, 5 years in service, or the Jesse getting ready to get out of service, is there anything that you would advise yourself or tell yourself to do maybe differently? Obviously, every lesson is important, but maybe there's some of those lessons that you wish you didn't run face first into the wall. You just come to the wall and learn the lesson. Are there any of those lessons that you wish you would have, learned quicker, or you could have a mulligan and do again?
Oh man, I think probably 100. Yeah, I did the wrong way, which is making every mistake on the way up. I remember buying a book that was like top 5 mistakes, and I was like, oh, I made 4 of those. Awesome.
I could write this book.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, I think the number one thing that I should have done sooner is either hire a mentor, join a mentorship program, something along those lines. At the time, I thought, no, I don't have money to pay for a mentor. And then I've probably wasted, I know I've wasted and left millions on the table just because like one little detail was off on my plan. So if I shifted over a couple inches in my plan, I would have been fine and the value would have gone up $1 million. But since I didn't, we lost, $200,000 worth of capital, and then also just did not increase the value of the property as much as we should have. So yeah, since then I've spent a ton of money, a ton of time with mentors, trying to learn more and more from now meeting with people in the software industry, just trying to learn from different people's perspectives on how to grow a company, how to build it, how to market. Could not state that enough. Find somebody or pay for somebody to kind of help you in the beginning, especially.
And have you found that now as you've kind of gone a little later on, or are you still kind of running solo a little on this, or?
No. Yeah, I've joined a couple different groups. I've met with 3 different people who've created and exited companies valued over $1 billion last week. I meet with people as often as I can and pick their brain. Here's what I'm doing. What's wrong with it? And they usually tweak. Doesn't mean they're right all the time, but they still have that experience, the know-how, and how to change things. Especially now that I'm moving into the public space where it's public-private partnerships and all that red tape it's a lot.
How would you have found that mentorship or all that sooner? How would you go about it, knowing what you know now? The Jesse starting out. How would you go about finding those? Because I think that's one of the things many struggle is they don't know how to find a mentor. Inside the military, the mentors are there because it's your squad leader, it's your section sergeant, it's your flight commander, whatever. Like the mentorship is almost built in. And I think it's a struggle for many veterans coming out is to go find that mentorship. How would you have done that differently?
Oh, that's a great question. And especially today, there's a million coaches online, right? I remember looking at one who said he did like $30 million worth of transactions, and he was trying to teach people how to do mobile home parks. And I was like, I don't know what transactions means. That's not mobile home parks. That's just transactions. I have no idea. But he had like, I don't know, 15,000 people following on LinkedIn and Instagram. And that was his whole thing. I'm like, I don't know how experienced this guy is actually at doing this. So that's the key indicator I would say is a lot of people look great, have great marketing online, but you really need to figure out what their track record is, what they've actually done, to determine if that's gonna be the right fit for you. And a lot of times they could be really smart and intelligent people, but they don't know how to communicate to you, or for you to absorb it, right? We all have different needs, leadership needs and abilities to absorb information. So figure out what works for you, whether it's a local network, or doing an online program. There's a ton of things out there, but just make sure that they're actually real and who they say they are.
I love it because I think you're right. If you can't make money in real estate, you go sell to people in real estate. I think that's the next best thing to do, where everybody can be a coach and a mentor. And we had somebody on here who was bragging about they've done billions of dollars worth of investments and found out they were an LP on every single one of them. And they didn't do it. They just sat through the process, and there's value in there. But what they were selling was that I can coach you through all this, but they'd never actually been in the trenches, had the LPs breathing down their neck through all that, and such a difference in mindset. And you're right, there are a lot of people that absolutely look great and pretty on social media, and there's no solid anything, no foundation they're on.
No, absolutely not.
No.
Yep.
Well, Jesse, I absolutely appreciate what you're doing. The work that you guys are doing, one, is just fascinating, and I'll start looking for the next projects I can send your way as well, because I think we need those kind of things here in San Antonio. So absolutely going to be trying to send you some stuff. But we thank you for your time here. We thank you for what you guys are doing for the community, because you really are taking that advantage to make changes in community for the better and make money while doing it, which to me sounds like the dream. So thank you for your time. Thank you for what you're doing. And hopefully you're willing to jump on and answer any questions that do pop up from some of our viewers or from some of the social media followers as they come up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look forward to it, Will. I'm looking at the Texas Triangle area. So please send anything over.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, appreciate it. Thank you so much, Jesse.
Awesome. Thanks.